You know how every best friend duo has their thing?
Some scrapbook, some bake. We share a Google search history the FBI would have questions about.
Welcome to Bloody Besties, the true crime podcast hosted by two lifelong friends with a questionable idea of what is light conversation and the emotional stability of a cracked chalk outline.
I'm the daughter of two law enforcement officers, which means my childhood bedtime stories often ended with, and that's why you should always lock your doors.
And I'm a forensic scientist who has spent many years looking at things most people can't after lunch.
Each episode, we break down real cases armed with actual science, questionable coping skills, and the energy of two people who joke through the horror because therapy is expensive.
We present the evidence, debunk the myths, and explore the human stories behind the headlines.
Sometimes we laugh, sometimes we get fired up, and actually ask, how is this person a functioning adult?
So if this sounds right up your alley, then Bloody Besties is where you belong, where friendship meets murder and the truth always leaves a trace. Welcome to our bestie community. Welcome back to Bloody Besties with your hosts, Ruby Wild
and Melissa May.
All right. We're continuing on with our horse crimes thanks to the recommendation by Win Folks. And I got a new topic because we can't just do the same topic every time. So what's your topic this week, Mel?
This week we're covering show horses. But Ruby, there's so many different types of show horses, ranging from the English showing world to the Western showing world. So I chose to go down the Olympics rabbit hole. So I get to be Alice this time.
Oh, love it. Hit me.
I learned that the equestrian events were first introduced at the 1900s Paris Summer Olympics. The lineup was quite different than what you see today. It had events like the high jump, the long jump, male coach, and jumping. Do any of those sound familiar?
Coach?
Male, like the U.S. mail.
Oh.
The high jump is like the people version where there's the pole and people would, kind of jump and go back first over it.
Yeah.
So they did that with horses. Ooh, horses. They did that with the horses.
So the horses did like a back bend over the bar?
No, they would jump normal. They would start at a certain height and then increasingly go up like limbo, but the opposite way.
Okay.
The highest they were able to achieve, which two competitors tied, was 6 feet 1 inch.
Holy cow. Dude, those are some crazy horses.
Yeah. Well, today's day, they're jumping 8 foot 1 inch. So back then, I guess, built different.
Whoa.
The long jump event was a lot like what you see in People, again, where you run and you jump across the sand and you land feet first in the longest.
I did long jump in high school.
Did you?
I did. I long jump, triple jump, and both 100 and 300 hurdles. I was a jumper.
I just did the requirement in PE when it's like, hey, it's track and field week. And I was like, cool, I hate running. Not my thing.
All right, back to long jump.
The horses were, the winner of that event was 20 feet and a quarter. That's long.
Oh, yeah. Holy cow.
The male coach event was where contestants had a 4-horse team and they pulled a carriage and the judges would determine the winner. It wasn't documented how they were judged, and some say that it wasn't even an event, that it might have been a demonstration. I was unable to find any pictures, so I do believe it was just a demonstration and not an event. And jumping, which is still around today, so I shouldn't have to do too much describing on that, but the horse and rider navigate through the obstacles in the set amount of time, so it is a timed event, which the others aren't timed. And the horses have to jump over and not refuse any of the jumps. And like I said before, the highest was 8 foot 1 inch. That was a world record that was set in 1949. So to this day, that has not been beat.
Okay, but were they drug testing the horses back then?
No, probably not.
Because I was just listening to, in fact, it was Red Handed podcast, and they were talking about on their shorthand the Nazi drugs. And they were talking about how I believe it was the 1930s Olympics that meth was not in banned substance yet in the Olympics. And so everybody was all hopped up on Mountain Dew for those Olympics. And I was listening to that and I was like, I had no clue that ever happened. I did not know. So I'm wondering if that hasn't been beat yet because the horse was allowed to be doped.
Well,
Anyway.
all of these events were all discontinued after their first appearance in 1900. Yeah, except for jumping.
I wonder why.
I don't know.
Probably not good for the horses.
No, they don't seem to care about that because we're still horse racing to this day.
Yeah, that's true.
It was also weird because a rider was able to enter multiple times just on a different horse. So in the records, I would see the same rider, but different horses. Like he'd get first and third. So it's a lot like barrel racing where you can bring a couple horses.
How did I never know that?
Because I only entered one.
I'm like, no, you only had one horse.
Right. I did enter horses I had for sale. I would sometimes race just to show them.
Oh, I only paid attention to you, apparently.
Right. So that was my fun little Olympics.
That was pretty awesome. I didn't know any of that. Sorry, my mic stand just decided to fall into a hole in the couch. All right. I'm really into that. And now I want to go down another rabbit hole, but I'll save that because maybe it'll hit up some more of the facts for the rest of the series. We'll see. Moving on to the tale, we're going to begin with air race pilot. And he was, quote unquote, Chicago's suburban gangster. He was the head of what was called the Jayne Gang, who was led by Silas Jayne, and that's Jayne. He was a bully, a cowboy, with a left arm that had a tattoo of a dagger and a snake wrapped around the blade. That comes into play later, of course. He wore a 16-carat diamond pinky ring.
Is that a lot?
16. He had a 1907 $20 gold piece as a belt buckle. And so this is just to let you know how much he loved to flaunt who he was around the area. He wore a money belt to carry around $10,000 in cash every day, just in case he needed to make bail.
Dang.
So that was his bail money. He had a Cadillac with steer horns on the grill, and he went by the name Cy. When he was young, a goose on the family farm bit him, so 6-year-old Silas grabbed an axe and killed the entire flock.
Oh my God.
So this lets you know, like, what type of a guy that we're having here.
Anger issues, much.
Very much. He was born July 3rd, 1907, and was one of 12 kids. And he was the oldest son. Cy stopped his education in the 9th grade to work on the family farm. The family's first farm was in Pontiac, Illinois, and they would ship wild horses to the stables to be sold for dog food.
Gross.
Yeah. So capture wild horses and then send them in for dog food. You're getting a taste of who this man is. After his parents separated and his mother gave birth to George with her attorney boyfriend. I don't know why I just said attorney like that. It's not attorney. Attorney boyfriend. In 1924, when he was 17, he was charged with rape. His mother's boyfriend represented him, but not very well, and he was convicted and sentenced to 1 year in a reformatory. I think, so all the records said his, I guess, pseudo-stepfather didn't get him off, and I'm like, 1 year in a reformatory for rape? That's a pretty good job. Not like I condone it.
What's a reformatory? Like a reform, I'm assuming?
Almost like a school for wayward boys. Literally, they're just trying to reform children rather than send them to like juvie. Their entire intention is to turn their life around. And I wouldn't be telling you about this man today if it actually worked.
Oh, snap.
So we're just going to go ahead and leap forward now that you know how he was as a child. And as adults, Cy with his brothers DeForest and Frank went into the stable business. And this was Green Tree Stables in Norridge and the Elson Riding Academy in Chicago. DeForest was considered to be an amazing trick rider.
Quite a name.
DeForest? Yeah, I don't know where it came from.
He was born in
DeForest.
the
Trick rider. Remember how we talked about that in the Tricky episode?
Trick riding?
Yeah. So DeForest was like amazing at this, and he was a gifted instructor at this. He was close to his brother George, the one that it wound up being like a half brother because this was by the attorney boyfriend. In 1938, DeForest's fiancee, Mae Sweeney, who was a former writing student, actually killed herself with arsenic. The day after she was buried, DeForest grabbed a shotgun, went to her gravesite, and killed himself. Then World War II came, and Cy, who was now a convicted felon, was not considered a quote-unquote worthy felon, so he was prohibited from serving.
A worthy felon is it's someone who's seen as a victim of their circumstances, and they're capable of being rehabilitated, and they were able to serve in the military in lieu of serving time in prison. I kind of picture him like a trustee where you kind of let him do certain things. I don't know.
Yeah, but I could see that.
Serve in the military. That's crazy.
You know what's kind of funny is I think this is what happened to my grandfather. He
do tell.
He wound up crashing, like he allegedly, according to the stories that I heard, he stole some lieutenant's car and then crashed it. And they basically told him you can either go to prison or serve in the military. And this was right around World War II. And so he chose to serve in the Navy. And then he almost died multiple times. You've heard those stories. And, but yeah, he chose that rather than prison. And I believe that's why he enlisted in the Navy.
Imagine our soldiers are just a bunch of worthy felons.
I mean,
partial of.
If they're, if what they did was not that bad, like crashing a car, like car theft and crashing a car, and
you're fixable, quote unquote.
Yeah, their intention is to reform. I don't see why you can't let them serve. And, maybe I'm completely wrong, but have them be a productive member of society? I don't know. But I mean, I'm not talking, the rapists, the murderers, the kitty diddlers. No, I'm talking I smoked weed underage at the age of 17 kind of thing. So anyway, because he was not considered a worthy felon, he was not allowed to serve. Instead, he stayed home and sold the horse meat. So instead of now capturing the wild horses to make it for dog food, now he was capturing the wild horses and processing their meat and selling it as beef.
Oh, as beef?
Because during the war, beef was rationed. And so it was really hard to get your hands on. So him selling horse meat as beef,
more money.
He was allowed to underground market, make money on this without having to have cattle. These were wild horses. He was gifted at trying to figure out ways to make money. And he made good money. And then we're going to enter the show horse world. And it was known that Cy would target wealthy men who wanted to buy show horses for their daughters because, rich girls always want horses growing up. And he would take a nag with no prospects and doctor them up so he could raise their prices. You would have more intel about this whole find a nag and make them look better than I ever will. I'm just assuming it's one of those miscongeniality things. you take what you have and you pretty it up.
Yeah, I would think you would just, I don't know, take a horse you find at auction, put 30 days of training into it, find a gullible person. You could be a snake oil salesman. You can make any horse look good. Put 30, 60 days on it. If they don't know anything about horses, yeah, easy.
I'm assuming that's exactly who his target audience was. And then when the purchaser would notice that this horse was an underperformer, miraculously, every time the horse would break a leg and need to be put down. He was smart enough to convince the buyers to take out insurance policies on their horses when they bought them, so it appeared that no one was a loser in the game, so nobody pressed charges against him for any of it. He had quite a little racket going. And then in 1952, George, the half-brother, decided to make his own way because he disagreed with Cy's plans to destroy his competitors' barns with the animals still inside. Again, you have to remember, Cy, not the greatest of the brothers. So George decided to stand on his own 2 feet, and he was like, look, I'm not about ready to start killing horses just because they're your competition. Cy, however, said that this was never, ever going to happen on his watch. George became a rival of Cy's, and George was thriving, and that started taking business away from his brother Cy. George's wife, Marion, was riding horses for his stables as well as training and coaching for the Tricolor Farm. And Cy's future wife, Dorothy McLeod, rode for Cy. So they literally are having complete competition happening now.
Did they say what type of discipline they did? Like what they showed in?
I think I get into it a little bit later. We'll have to see it.
What state are we in?
Illinois.
I've pictured Texas because of the horns on the caddy, but...
Yeah, Illinois. Cy started openly threatening to kill George, and this is after, so this is where I get into it. A girl named Cheryl Rude, who Cy had fired, rode for George and won. There was another threat when George's 14-year-old daughter won a top prize at the Oak Brook Hounds Horse Show, again beating Cy. These threats continued for about a decade in the vein of, you'll never make it home, I'll get you one way or another, you're as good as dead, and of course a couple of straight out, I'll kill yous.
It's wild.
Yeah, these brothers were not friends. It seems like they were not idle threats because George's stable office was shot up when no one was there. His stable hands were shot at. There was sugar in his gas tank, which we've all heard is that the girl revenge story.
That's terrible.
It destroys the gas tank somehow.
Yeah, it forms a sludge because it doesn't dissolve. So it's forming a sludge in your fuel tank, and then it goes up and clogs your filters, damages your fuel pump, blocks fuel injectors, costs tons of money to repair. So if you do suspect that someone's done this to you, then don't start your car.
Oh,
This actually reminds me of a side story.
yeah, I'm in.
So I recently learned that putting fluids where they don't belong is bad.
I mean, giggity.
Giggity, right? You know, I have 3 diesel trucks now. I've got a 2002, 2005, and a new 2025. The new truck has a DEF diesel exhaust fluid tank.
Yeah. Blue Death.
Right. They put it in the same fuel door right next to your diesel area.
It's dumb as fuck.
Apparently, my husband said that it used to be on a different area, but now it's in the same compartment. So if you're distracted on the phone and you put diesel in your DEF tank,
Yeah.
that mistake can cost you $18,000.
That is dumb as fuck. Who thought that was a good idea?
So my dumbass home remodel person, the husband, was on the celly and put DEF in his diesel.
No. At that point, you just get rid of the vehicle and call it a day. Wow. See, that's what I'm saying. Whoever decided that was a good idea. Oh, that is so dumb.
So that's a new problem that we have.
This episode's going to have an explicit rating for me saying, what the fuck? That's dumb as fuck.
Dumbass.
Oh,
And it was a dude. It wasn't a girl. Can't blame women for this.
no. Yeah, yeah, wow. Revenge, man. Now
karma.
you know, just accidentally, quote unquote, with your man, just put some DEF in his diesel tank and claim to ignorance.
There you go. Oh, you didn't hear that from us, though.
No.
But we're your bestie. We got you, girls.
Heck yeah. Welcome to the Besties. So yeah, they were putting sugar in his gas tank. Then they loosened his wheel lugs on his truck at the Ohio State Fair. So they were trying to get him to lose a wheel while trailering his horses. And then his horses were even poisoned. Things were just getting foul. And then it kind of hit a crescendo because Cheryl, who went by Sherry, she was 22. She was riding for George and she had just won the jumping event. So that's where the show horses came in. She had just won the jumping event at the May 1965 Cincinnati Horse Show. This win brought on more threats, and on June 14th, 1965, George and Sherry, they were at the Tricolor Stables in Palatine, and he asked Sherry to run an errand for him, handing her his Cadillac keys. You can guess where this is going. Neither was to know there was dynamite strapped to the engine and it went off when Sherry turned the key.
Oh my God.
Sherry was killed in a bomb that was obviously meant for George. Soon after, Stephen Grode and Edward Morin told George that Cy attempted to hire them to kill him. So 2 alleged hitmen went to George and basically said, Cy just paid us to try and kill you. Just a heads up. So George went to the sheriff's office to let them know there's a possible hit on me, and he was put into protective custody, and Marion reported him missing for everything to look real. So George went to the sheriff. The sheriff came up with a plan. They put him into hiding. Marion reported him missing to explain, I don't know where he went. Stephen went to Cy, said, yep, we took care of George. And the call was recorded. Cy said enough to be indicted for solicitation of murder. The problem, however, was the tapes were considered inadmissible because unlike Tennessee, where it's a single knowledge recording state, which, by the way, in Tennessee, nobody has to let you know they're recording you.
Okay.
Heads up.
Didn't know that.
You're welcome. So yeah, you can record anybody anytime and nobody can do anything about it. We're a single knowledge state. Since the tapes were not admissible, they needed Stephen to testify that, yes, Cy hired me to kill George. I went and told George. Cy then, confessed when I said I killed him. Stephen was, as Love Murder calls it, dummying up, basically saying, I don't know anything. I know nothing. And so that led to Stephen being held in contempt and the charges against Cy were dropped. So where Cy could have been taken care of, he's now not, and he's a free man. And while all this was happening, there was a police investigation into Sherry's murder, and they found out about the animosity between the 2 brothers. And that case went cold until 1997. And we're going to come back to her case a little bit later, so just kind of put a pin in that. Just remember the name Sherry. And we're going to come back to how that was all solved in 1997. So everything in this tale takes place over a very large period of time, but for understanding wise, I decided to keep everything linear time wise. There's going to be a lot of pins that you're going to have to put in place. Bear with me. Don't worry, it's all going to come together at the end. In 1967, George tried to call a truce by backing out of competing and paying Cy off to prevent him from doing anything at his daughter's weddings. Literally, George is just waving the white flag. But he was not letting down his guard, and he did hire former private police chief Frank Michelle Sr. Everywhere, it was either Michelle or Mitchell, but I'm going with Michelle. That's what the majority of people put down. He hired him as a bodyguard, and that man put a transmitter on Cy's car to let George know whenever he was close to him, like in proximity. One day, the battery of this transmitter needed to be changed out. So he hired his son, Frank Michelle Jr., who was a 28-year-old ex-con, to go to Cy's property and change out the battery. This is brutal. Frank Jr. went there in the same car with his wife and kids. He got out and tried to sneak onto the property, but Cy's dogs alerted that there was somebody on the property. Cy came out and shot and killed Frank Jr.
Oh my gosh.
There was a coroner's inquest, and Cy got away with it being self-defense, saying Frank Jr. was shooting at him while he was at the front door.
But the wife and kids were in the car.
Well, I don't know if they were still there. They might have pulled away a bit to not let him off, but they were how he got to the property. And then Cy, again, both are reported it was either a 32 or a 22 caliber pistol or both. Literally, old-timey records are kind of hard to keep straight. And he said that he grabbed his pistol, ran out, shot the intruder. And then when the man was injured and crawling away, he grabbed a different gun and continued to shoot him for a total of 9 times. And somehow they said that this was self-defense.
Yeah, no, that's at the point where it would be like, no, it's not. He's fleeing.
Right? The guy's on the ground. He can't fight back. He's trying to flee, and you walk up and shoot him more. That is no longer self-defense.
This is crooked small town shiz.
Mm-hmm. So then in 1967, so that same year, Cy took a horse to a man named Dr. Thomas Phillips to get a clean bill of health. X-rays showed that the horse was actually lame, so this doctor refused to sign off on saying that this horse was healthy. Because of that, his practice was bombed. Soon after, a phone call stated, Dr. Phillips, if you don't change your way of feeding horses, the next blast will be at your house. Dr. Phillips heeded the threat, got police protection, but he didn't bow to their demands. He was standing by his morals. Sy also had some bad luck with property that was insured because some of his property would catch fire and it killed 11 of his horses, but it made him a healthy profit in return. Yeah. Sy also worked with a man named Curtis Hansen, who was the brother of Kenneth Hansen, who acted as a hitman for the Katura crime family in Chicago Heights. He was suspected of 7 murders. This affiliation will matter later on in the story. So yet another pin. So that's 2 pins we've got right now. Sherry and Kenneth Hansen. Okay. Curtis Hansen, Kenneth Hansen. Then in 1969, November, a crooked cop, Edwin Neffield, met with a man, Melvin Adams, to see if he would perform a hit for $10,000. Melvin wanted to see if he could do it, so he agreed. Like, he just wanted to say, I wonder if I could kill someone. That's why he accepted.
But it also reminds me of one of the fun facts I did about hitmen. Remember was it Argentina where the cop got his nephew involved and just to see if he could make a hit on people?
Yes. Oh, you're so right.
I can't remember names.
I don't remember, but you are absolutely right. So that's the only reason that he took the job. So he met with Sy, who gave suggestions on how he should kill George, told him to make sure there were no witnesses, to kill his wife and children if he needed to. Melvin, it turns out, did not have it in him to kill a man. So he instead brought in one of his coworkers, Julius Barnes. There was further negotiating, and eventually the price of the hit escalated to $30,000 to be paid at the completion because Sy has now learned his lesson about paying up front.
Yeah.
There we go. I bet you could see where this is going because it finally happened. On October 28th, 1970, around 8:15 p.m., the pair drove to George's home. Julius went up to the house and shot George, and they left. George had been shot one time straight through the heart, through the window, while he was sitting in the basement playing cards with Marion, his daughter Linda, her husband Mickey, and earlier in the night they had been celebrating George Jr.'s birthday, who just turned 16. George was murdered at the age of 47. Brutal, in front of his family. After he died, letters came to light. One to his lawyer, written July the year previous, stating that he knew his brother was trying to kill him. He wanted his family taken care of if Sy succeeded. Melvin did not make sure there were no witnesses to the crime, and their vehicle was spotted. So somebody had caught a partial license plate beginning with 936, and there was an anonymous tip that helped the Illinois Bureau of Investigation in May of 1971 right to Melvin. He told the police everything. He folded like an origami crane, gift wrapped. He gave them Julius, Sy, Edwin Neffield, and a man named Joseph LaPlaca, who was in on the plan as well. And so all of them were charged with George's murder. Melvin was given immunity because he agreed to testify against the others. The trial lasts for 30 days. There was enough evidence to back the claims. There was a .30 caliber enforcer that was recovered with serial number restoration, which I don't know if I've talked about it or not. Now that I'm in the gun game, all of this is super fascinating to me, but anytime that you think you've destroyed a serial number, no, you haven't. We can figure it out. It's something called plastic deformation. So when they stamp a serial number onto a gun, it actually changes the chemical composition of the metal in the area that it was stamped. So what we can do is just peel away the 2 different types of metal and separate it, in case you were wondering. And then, not to mention, the majority of guns have hidden serial numbers, and no, I will not tell you their locations.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Like, each little part should have something somewhere.
Most do. Yeah, most do. So anytime that you think you've destroyed a serial number, no, you haven't. And in this case, it's a perfect example. So the serial number traced this gun back to Sy. And this was the gun that Julius used. He borrowed from the policeman, Edward Vest, who loaned his rifle to Melvin's girlfriend wife, and both reported giving it to Melvin, who gave it to Julius. Was that really confusing?
It just went all over the place.
It really did, but they were able to trace the entire path of this gun to get it into the hands of Julius to shoot and kill George. Then further, they had done practice shooting with this rifle against a tree on Si's farm. So they went to that tree, recovered the bullet. They've done this many times. Anytime that somebody does practice shooting, they remove the bullet and they were able to match it from the bullet that was removed from George. There was also a fingerprint of Julius's on the scope of the rifle. Money was also recovered from Melvin's girlfriend-wife's purse, and Si's thumbprint was on one of the $50 bills that was in her purse. This whole web is connecting. They ain't being able to talk their way out of it this time. Julius was found guilty and sentenced to 15 to 35 years. He was released and was himself killed at the age of 58 in 2021 by his girlfriend's son in a fight over a dog.
Oh, I gotta know. I gotta know what happened.
I tried so hard, but they just kept saying it was a fight over a dog.
I mean, I could picture it. We both could kill somebody over our dogs.
Oh, I would so go John Wick. I could tell you right now, I would be John Wick. I would like to think I would be John Wick. Come on, I would be bumbling Mr. Bean instead, but still, I would attempt.
In our mind.
Yeah, in my mind, I would also survive a zombie apocalypse. So then Silas was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, and he was sentenced to 6 to 20 years. And then he served 7 after being defended by F. Lee Bailey, famous attorney. The police officer that approached Melvin, Edwin Neffield, pled guilty to conspiracy, and he was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison. So Silas was out of prison in 1979, and 7 months later, he was indicted by a grand jury that he had plotted an arson that killed 33 show horses while he was serving time in prison in 1976. So he got out and immediately was like back into the whole ring of trial.
He was not rehabilitated.
No, he has no hope. Si's former cellmate was the one to bring to light that little nugget, and he also shared that Si had a hit list that included Marion, Linda, and Melvin. So Marion, George's wife, Linda, her daughter, and Melvin, who organized the hit. His trial happened in 1980, but he was found not guilty. And at the time of his death, Si was married 3 times, divorced twice, no children. He lived his remaining years as a free man until his death in July 13th, 1987, from leukemia at the age of 80. So he pretty much got away with almost everything that he did, except for hiring someone to kill his brother, but he served minimal time for that.
It's wild.
Yeah. Okay, this is really cool. So George's wife, Marion, not cool that she died in 1996, but during her life, she became a professional cross-country air race pilot, and she was inducted into the WAI Pioneer Hall of Fame, the International Forest of Friendship, and she was named a 100 aviation hero for the first century of flight, along with the Wright brothers and Amelia Earhart.
Wow. And a woman, these planes they're specialized little planes. And they compete on a course, and they have strict rules, and they have to avoid penalties, and they have to fly through a series of air gates and pylons. The pylons are 50 feet tall. Oh, have you seen these?
I'm picturing I haven't, but I'm picturing Quidditch from Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah. Like that.
That's what I'm picturing.
Red Bull is a popular sponsor of these.
I could see that. They also do that. Yeah, they do the flute hog and stuff like that.
They do the fun stuff, like the soapbox races.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
They have a lot of strict rules on the air race pilot stuff.
Like what?
Well, the ones I know is you have to be sideways, like when you serpentine through the pylons. But then when the pylons are side by side, your wings have to go completely straight when you cross through that gate, or else they deduct points.
Whoa.
It's pretty neat. And they're hauling booty.
I need to look up videos of this.
It's actually, and it's always over water, which when you said cross country, I was like, ooh, I need to see this. I always see them on water.
Okay. Well, I need to look at this now. Oh, and she won with her daughter, Patricia Kiefer, the 1994 FAI gold medal for the longest air race in history, with 24 days to fly around the world. So she did do kind of an Amelia Earhart thing with her daughter. And she holds the record as the only U.S. pilot to race twice around the world as of 2023. Marion was
bad bitch.
Bomb. I am such a fan of hers. And, you know, to live with having her husband shot and killed in front of her and dealing with her brother-in-law's bullshit for years and years and years. And then, like I said, she also was like responsible for the horse training and everything at the stables. So she was a bad bitch.
Yeah.
I love her. But we are not done yet because remember those pins that we had to put in.
Sherry.
So Sherry's murder, remember how I said it went cold until 1997? We're back there again. And technically a little bit before, because the case was reopened in 1994 and a man named Thomas Hanna was questioned about the bombing. He admitted that a man named James, oh God, I'm going to butcher this, Blatiaux, Blottiaux,
Blatois.
he borrowed a car from him on the day of the bombing. And this was the same car that one of George's daughters saw at the ranch. And when he returned to the car, he was shaken and said, "I killed the wrong person."
No.
Yeah. Then he threw up. And this led to James's arrest December 15th, 1997. And he admitted that he knew Cy from high school and he went to work for him on and off at his stable. He told police that he regretted killing Sherry and that he planted the bomb at the behest of Cy. He was 21 when he planted the bomb. During his life, he was married. He had a baby. He had another on the way. He said that he needed the money and that's why he did it. In the interim between the murder and 1997, they had 2 sons and 2 daughters. They were divorced. His ex-wife maintained custody of their sons, moving to Florida. He was convicted in 1999 and sentenced to 100 to 300 years. He was denied parole at a hearing in 2020, and from what I could see, he is now dead, but I didn't see when or how or if he was free at the time. So I could just see death notice, if it's the same man. And so a lot about what I covered on George and Silas's relationship came about from an article titled Blood Feud by Jean O'Shea that was published in June 2002 in an issue of Chicago Magazine. So you're going to have to stay tuned for that second pin on Curtis Hanson because that's going to be a part of our next episode.
Oh.
I know I'm brutal, aren't I?
Cliffhangers.
There we go. You have to listen to next week's episode to figure out how Curtis Hanson ties into all of this. Hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.
Bye, y'all.